Fantastic. Thank you very much. Quick cup of coffee here. Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I want to begin by thanking Reed and Gretchen for having us here in Surrey and for hosting us and sharing their stories with us. This neighborhood brings back a lot of memories for me. I grew up in a very middle-class home in an N-unit townhouse in the south end of Ottawa. And my parents had to work very hard to make ends meet. We didn't own a car. They were able to give us a good quality of life, but we had to make choices. I like to say that they were always able to give us everything we needed, but we didn't always get everything that we wanted. My parents had to watch every penny, and this is back when we still had pennies. And when interest rates went up or when we had to call in a plumber, it was a source of real stress. This was the reality of middle-class life for my family, and for Reed, Gretchen, and their family, and for millions of families all across Canada. I wish I could say life has gotten easier for Canada's middle class, but it has not. People are working harder than ever, but many are barely getting by or even falling further and further behind. They're definitely not getting ahead. Il y a 4 ans, Justin Trudeau a dit aux Canadiens qu'il avait un plan pour aider la classe moyenne. Mais comme les 4 dernières années l'ont démontré, Trudeau n'est tout simplement pas celui qu'il prétendait d'être. En réalité, c'est 80% des familles canadiennes à revenus moyens qui paient aujourd'hui $800 de plus en impôts. 4 years ago, Justin Trudeau told Canadians he had a plan to help the middle class. But as the last 4 years have shown, Justin Trudeau is simply not as advertised. The fact is, 80% of Canadian middle-income families are paying $800 more in taxes. Justin Trudeau hiked taxes on parents who signed their kids up for sports or music classes. He raised taxes on transit passes and on textbooks. And worst of all, he made his government's signature policy the creation of a new tax, one which already jacks up the cost of gas for our cars, for heating our homes, and for our groceries. A carbon tax, which despite a desperate cover-up, is set to grow even 5 times larger than it is today. If Trudeau is re-elected and he's able to hike his carbon tax, the price of gas will go up 31 cents per litre. The carbon tax would raise the price of natural gas for a Canadian household by $469 per year. That's a $1,151 hit to a family's household in Ontario. $1,151 that could have been spent on you, on your kids, on your retirement. You don't need to be an economist to know that when you drive up the cost of gas and home heating, it is low and middle income Canadians that are hardest hit. So we do know, though, who is getting ahead under Justin Trudeau. It's millionaire trust fund owners or corporations looking for special deals. All the while, he's called small business owners tax cheats. With the Trudeau Liberals, the government has made life more expensive for hardworking Canadians, while the wealthy and well-connected get special access. Middle-class Canadians deserve better. You deserve better. Your family deserves better. It's time for you to get ahead. That's why we're going to scrap the Trudeau carbon tax. That's why we're going to take the GST and HST off of home heating and energy costs, saving your family every year. That's why we're going to make public transit passes more affordable. For some, that could mean up to $1,000 back in their family's pocket. And that's why we're going to make every cent of maternity benefits tax-free, giving new parents up to $4,000 to save for their kids. Which brings me to why I'm here today. It's time for a universal tax cut that is focused on you. And that's what a new Conservative government will deliver. A tax cut targeted specifically at taxpayers in the lowest tax bracket. We're going to lower the tax rate for the lowest income tax bracket from 15% to 13.75%. This lower tax rate will cover all income in the first tax bracket, which applies to income up to $47,630. So what does this mean for you? It means that every Canadian taxpayer will see their income taxes go down, and those in the lowest tax bracket see the biggest proportional benefit of all. It means that an individual earner would save over $440 on their taxes, and a typical 2-income family with average salaries would save over $850. That's $850 back in your pocket each year, every year, above and beyond what you're going to save from scrapping the carbon tax. Je suis heureux d'annoncer que le nouveau gouvernement conservateur va baisser le taux d'imposition de la tranche d'imposition la plus basse de 15% à 13,75%. Ce taux d'imposition réduit s'appliquera à tous les revenus de la première tranche d'imposition, ce qui s'applique aux revenus jusqu'à concurrence de 47 630 $. Alors, qu'est-ce que cela signifie? Cela signifie que tous les contribuables canadiens verront leur impôt sur les revenus diminuer. Et ceux qui se situent dans la tranche d'imposition la plus basse vont en tirer le plus grand avantage. Cela signifie qu'une particulière économiserait plus de 440 $ d'impôts. Et une famille typique avec 2 revenus moyens va économiser plus de 850 $. C'est 850 $ de plus dans vos poches chaque année. It means more money to pay the bills, to pay for groceries, to save up for your kids' education, or maybe even a family vacation. More money for seniors on fixed incomes, or recent graduates and new Canadians who have just entered the job market. More money in your pocket, more money for you, for your kids, for your retirement. You shouldn't have to be a billionaire to get your government's attention. You shouldn't have to have a full-time government lobbyist on retainer to get noticed. Instead, you deserve a government that simply respects how hard you work and how much you already pay. Il n'y a pas que les milliardaires qui devraient recevoir l'attention de leur gouvernement. Tous les Canadiens méritent un gouvernement qui respecte vos efforts et comprend que vous payez déjà assez cher. A government and a prime minister whose first priority will be to help you get ahead. I will be that prime minister. And on behalf of our Conservative team, I'm asking Canadians for your vote so that we can give you the real break that you deserve. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. So you've got your forms out already.
Get at them early.
Yeah. I guess we're a few months away from that, but yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's better early than late.
That's yeah. So you mentioned you have children.
Yeah.
And you said they're recently married? Both of them recently married? Okay.
Yes, within a year of each other.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And boys or girls? One of each? Or?
One of each.
One of each? Okay.
Wonderful.
Great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
great.
It's been a terrific time watching them,
Get to that point.
get to that
basically.
Yeah.
point.
No, it's so much fun.
Yeah. So was
Bring people into their lives too, right?
yeah. And are they both living nearby, or you mentioned are they both working in Vancouver?
One here, one in
One in
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
One in Ottawa. Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's
You know which part? You know which part of Ottawa?
Downtown.
Downtown. Okay.
Yeah. They live downtown.
Yeah.
They live
so
down.
one we see quite frequently, and then the other because of the distance.
course.
Not so
Yeah.
much, but
Not so
but it makes it makes those times when we do see each other just all that much better.
Yeah, of course.
No, it's wonderful.
Well, I moved from Ottawa to Regina,
Yeah.
and it was it's tough. But then I ended up getting elected in 2004,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was able to see mom and dad
Right.
Yeah.
more frequently.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
your parents stayed in Ottawa.
Yeah, so my parents stayed in Ottawa. My dad's still there. My mom passed away a few years ago, but my dad's still same house I grew up in.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
isn't that fun? I mean,
Yeah.
my parents were in Vancouver in the same house that they raised four kids, and so we frequently go back like every weekend. Right?
Yeah.
We love the city of Vancouver. But yeah, no, it's amazing. My old bedroom,
Yeah.
bedroom next to it, my brother slept, and yeah, no, it's
yeah.
fun going back home.
During the leadership race, I crashed at my dad's place.
Oh, really?
Aw.
My bed's still there.
Isn't that
Same
so?
posters on the
Yeah,
wall.
that is actually so fun.
That's where I'm at.
Just
That's
a
right.
year and a half ago, we cleaned out our son's room, we picked out
Oh my goodness.
Sure. Yeah. No, this is.
And I'm the exact opposite. I've got that science fair. I've got these boxes for the kids. I hope someday they want to see them. They probably won't, but they're there. Yeah.
And Grandma and Grandma's house has such significance. So when you have
Yeah. No, you're okay. We don't have grandchildren.
exactly, yeah. Well, when you do, this place will be like, that'll be they'll have all of that.
Our attic is full of stuff, waiting for them. Because I can't throw it away. It'll be a good gift if you can, right?
your government.
Alors, merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci d'être ici. Thank you very much for being here. Very excited to announce a significant tax cut for every single Canadian. Universal tax cut. We are going to be dropping the lowest tax bracket, something that will benefit every single Canadian taxpayer in this country. Nous allons réduire les impôts pour tous les Canadiens travailleurs. This is part of our entire campaign package that will be focused on putting more money in the pockets of Canadians so they can get ahead. So I'm happy to take your questions.
Mr. Scheer, the Parliamentary Budget Office has just released a costed account of what your tax cut will cost when fully implemented at $6 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
You've pledged to reduce the deficit and balance the books within 5 years. Do you still stick to that? And if you do, what programs are you going to cut?
We are absolutely committed to balancing the budget over a responsible period of time, 5 years. We are going to get back to balanced budgets while we find ways to lower taxes, put money back in the pockets of Canadians so they can get ahead. I've made the commitment that while doing that, we will make sure that funding for important services like healthcare and education continue to increase by at least 3%. And we will be releasing a fully costed platform that shows exactly how we're going to get back to balanced budgets. It's no secret that we don't agree with some of the wasteful Liberal spending, like the $250 million that they put into the Asian Infrastructure Bank, building roads and bridges in other countries. As I said, in the coming days, we'll be showing Canadians exactly how we're going to protect core services, balance the budget, and lower taxes. It's also important to remember that massive deficits threaten those very social programs. We've seen that in the past where Liberal governments have run permanent massive deficits for very long periods of time, that puts such a huge strain on those very social services that they claim to care about. So that's why it's so important that a government gets back to balanced budgets.
M. Scheer, Louis Blouin de Radio-Canada, vous voulez maintenir l'allocation canadienne pour enfants. Là, vous annoncez une mesure de 6 milliards supplémentaires. Il y a 1 milliard pour la TPS sur les factures d'électricité. Vous dites que vous pouvez équilibrer le budget. Comment vous allez faire? Vous allez couper où?
Mm-hmm. Alors, c'est essentiel d'avoir un budget équilibré parce que les coûts d'intérêt sur la dette nationale imposent les coûts pour les Canadiens. On va montrer à tous les Canadiens comment on va arriver à un budget équilibré au même temps qu'on va laisser plus d'argent dans leur poche. Dans les prochains jours, on va montrer aux Canadiens, on va avoir une plateforme avec tous les chiffres, tout chiffré, et les Canadiens peuvent savoir où est-ce qu'on va trouver les épargnés, les épargnes pour les Canadiens. On a déjà dit qu'on va assurer que l'argent pour les programmes sociaux comme la santé et l'éducation va continuer d'augmenter, mais on va éliminer le gaspillage que les libéraux ont fait avec le 250 millions de dollars dans la Banque d'infrastructure asiatique. Alors, on va montrer à tous les Canadiens comment on va faire équilibrer le budget au même temps qu'on va laisser l'argent dans les poches des Canadiens.
Monsieur Blanchette, le chef du Bloc québécois, dans un discours, vous accuse d'être à la solde des groupes anti-avortement, d'être à la solde aussi des intérêts pétroliers, que vous ne servirez pas les intérêts du Québec. Qu'est-ce que vous auriez à lui répondre?
Mais c'est clair que n'importe qui était le chef du Bloc, toujours sont dans les estrades, pas sur la glace. C'est le conservateur qui est toujours défendre les intérêts des Québécois et Québécoises. Nous avons reconnu les Québécois comme une nation dans un Canada uni. Nous avons donné le Québec un siège à l'UNESCO. C'est seulement notre parti qui peut livrer le change que les Québécois ont besoin, comme un seul rapport d'impôt unique. Ça, c'est seulement les partis conservateurs qui peuvent faire ça, et c'est seulement moi qui peux remplacer Justin Trudeau. Alors, pour tous les Québécois et Québécoises qui sont tannés de Justin Trudeau, c'est seulement les conservateurs, c'est seulement moi qui peux lui remplacer. Well, look, I mean, it's clear that no matter who the leader of the Bloc Québécois is, that they're always on the sidelines, never actually on the ice, fighting for Quebecers and fighting for the interests of Quebec. It's only the Conservative Party which has stood up for the interests of Quebec. We were the ones that recognized that the Québécois are a nation within a united Canada. We were the ones that gave Quebec a seat at UNESCO. We are the only party that can replace Justin Trudeau's Liberals, and I'm the only person that can replace Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister. So if people in Quebec are tired of Justin Trudeau, his wasteful spending, his massive deficits, his higher taxes, and the way he's conducted himself on the world stage, there is only one choice in this election.
Mr. Scheer, Michael Couture from Global National. In a news release today, your party is asking for the Liberals to fire a candidate from Pierrefonds Dollard for his comments on 9/11. Yesterday, you said you're fine with candidates just apologizing and they can stay. So would it be okay if this candidate just apologizes?
Well, obviously it depends on, as I said yesterday, there's more to it than that. There's context in all of these things. But look, it's quite clear that Justin Trudeau and his Liberal team are complete hypocrites on this file. He still has not condemned the anti-Semitic remarks from one of his candidates in Saint Michel. So they can continue to focus on these types of personal attacks. We are going to focus on delivering real results for Canadians, like this universal tax cut. Canadians can now know that under a Conservative government after October 21st, they will get a government that is constantly looking for ways to lower taxes. Liberals are constantly looking for ways to raise taxes. Oui. Alors, j'ai été très clair hier soir. La chose qui est très inquiétante pour moi, c'est que le fait que Justin Trudeau a refusé de dénoncer les paroles antisémites de son propre candidat. C'est clair que c'était une stratégie des libéraux de faire les attaques comme ça, mais nous sommes concentrés sur notre plateforme qui va laisser plus d'argent dans les poches des Canadiens. Et les Canadiens peuvent savoir qu'après le 21 octobre, il peut y avoir un gouvernement qui toujours cherche les façons de laisser plus d'argent dans leur poche avec les coupes d'impôts.
Maybe I'm having trouble understanding this. I mean, some of your candidates were homophobic comments, anti-Islamic comments, and you're saying if they say they're sorry about it, that's fine, but not for the Liberal candidate? I mean, why two different standards?
I'll point you to the remarks I made last night, in which I was very clear. I'll tell you one thing. If we're talking about vetting candidates, there's one candidate that I'm very concerned about in this election. There's a candidate who broke ethics laws twice, who is obstructing the RCMP's attempts to obtain information, who invited a convicted terrorist along to a state dinner, and who has repeatedly broken promises to Canadians, and who still has refused to condemn anti-Semitic remarks. That candidate would never pass a Conservative vetting process.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Olivia Stefanovich from CBC News. In many of your speeches so far, we've heard you make a claim that 80% of Canadians in the middle class saw their taxes go up by around $800. And that's based on a Fraser Institute report that does not account for the CCB, and it doesn't fully account for how lives have changed in the middle class financially. So are you purposefully trying to mislead voters?
Not at all. The report that those numbers are based on is accurate, is an accurate reflection of the taxes that people pay, the taxes that have gone up under Justin Trudeau. When you factor in the fact that he's canceled tax credits for children's sports activities and music lessons, when you factor in the fact that he canceled the public transit tax credit that we will now bring back to put more money back in the pockets of Canadians, when you factor in the elimination of tax credits like the textbooks tax credit that young students were able to benefit from, all of that adds up to the fact that Canadians are paying higher taxes today than they were in 2015. And the cost of living has also gone up. And that's why our entire campaign is focused on making life more affordable, putting money back in the pockets of Canadians.
On another topic during the scrum overnight on the plane, you made a comment about major court rulings, including assisted dying. So I'm wondering what your view is on this assisted dying law, and are you proposing changes to that law?
Mm-hmm. Well, as I mentioned last evening, this court decision will have major impact on Canada's laws around medical assistance in dying, and we will of course be studying that law, that ruling very, very carefully so that we can respond appropriately. This is obviously something that has been relatively recently implemented in Canada, and as expected, you know, when this bill was being debated in the House of Commons, many people pointed out that it would likely be tested in the courts very early on. That's what we're seeing, and so we'll have a comprehensive response to that in the coming days.
Mr. Scheer, Omar Sechedina from CTV National News. Back in May, you said, and I'm quoting you, "I find the notion that one's race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation would make anyone in any way superior or inferior to anyone else absolutely repugnant. And you went on to say, and if there's anyone who disagrees with that, there's the door. You are not welcome. Overnight on the plane, with reference to your candidates, you said if anybody apologizes for their comments in the past, you're okay with that, you accept that. Do you not see a double standard or a contradiction between what you said back in May and what you told us on the plane?
What's important is how people conduct themselves today. What's important is how they take responsibility and how they signal their support for equality rights of all Canadians. And the candidates that will be running under our banner will and must demonstrate that commitment to fundamental equality rights for all Canadians. That's the standard that I expect. And again, if we want to talk about what candidates have said, we have a candidate who has broken ethics laws. We have a candidate who invited a convicted terrorist to a state dinner. We have a candidate who is obstructing the RCMP's attempts at obtaining information into possible obstruction of justice charges. And we have a candidate who refuses to condemn anti-Semitic remarks from his own party. That candidate would never pass the Conservative vetting process.
But back to you and your candidates. I mean, in a race that appears at this point tight between you and the Liberal leader, the fact that you have several candidates that come with considerable political baggage, what is the political strategy for you for doubling down instead of finding new candidates to run?
The political strategy is focusing on the things that we're hearing from Canadians: affordability, making life less expensive. We are unveiling measure after measure designed at putting money back in the pockets of Canadians to deal with the cost of living crunch that we are hearing from coast to coast. That's why you're seeing policies like the public transit tax credit, like removing the GST and HST off of home energy, making maternity leave benefits tax-free. That's why we're announcing this universal tax cut today that will benefit every Canadian worker who pays taxes in Canada. That's the focus that we're going to be continuing on until October 21st, and we're excited to implement that after the election.
Mr. Scheer, Mia Rabson from the Canadian Press. There was a terrible shooting in Mississauga overnight. A teenager was killed. Several others seem to be critically wounded. It's raising again the question of guns, possible restrictions on guns. What is your feeling? Is there any restrictions or changes to gun laws and gun registration, access to guns that you can foresee making as Prime Minister?
Well, thank you very much, and take this opportunity to send my best wishes and sympathy and condolences to the victims and their families. This tragedy, as we learn more information about it today, obviously it's a very shocking tragedy that is going to touch the lives of so many people in that community. Obviously, want to thank the first responders as well for their actions. Canadians have the right to feel safe and secure in their neighborhoods, and parents shouldn't have to worry about their children getting together and worrying about what might happen to them with violent shootings. My plan for a safer Canada specifically addresses illegal firearms. It talks about giving greater resources to Canadian Border Service authorities to track and crack down and capture illegal firearms and firearms that were trafficked, as well as greater penalties for people who commit these types of offenses, including gang members. And what we do know about some of these shootings that have gone on over the past few months is that they are related to gang activity. And that's why we need better laws to deal with things like the bail conditions that known gang members receive. That's why we need greater cooperation between different police agencies. That's exactly what my plan for Safer Canada talks about, and that's exactly what we'll do after the election, after we form government. Oui, alors, premièrement, je veux envoyer mes sympathies à les victimes et leurs familles. C'est une tragédie très, très, très significative pour la communauté. Et c'est clair qu'on a besoin de plus d'efforts pour cibler les armes à feu illégaux et les membres des gangs de route. Et ça, c'est notre plan pour un Canada plus sécuritaire. On va cibler les gens qui sont dans les gangs. On va assurer que les peines qui viennent avec les actes comme ça sont plus sévères pour assurer que les gens qui commettent les crimes comme ça doivent prendre la responsabilité.
Why do you think, or do you think, that anyone in Canada should have the right to own the kinds of semi-automatic weapons that seem to only be designed to kill people?
Well, look, I refer to the police chiefs on this who have acknowledged that seizing or banning certain types of firearms are not the preferred course of action. It diverts valuable police resources away from going after the real criminals, going after the guns that are smuggled in illegally. Canada has very comprehensive gun laws right now. There are many types of firearms that are not legal in Canada, specifically because of the risk that they would pose to society. Conservatives support comprehensive firearm safety laws that put an onus on responsible firearm ownership and ensuring that people who use firearms in the course of committing a crime face significant penalties, especially members of gangs who we know, we're hearing from police chiefs that their preferred course of action, their preferred, where they would rather see governments focus on is going after those gang members, going after people who receive bail and then go right back into the gangs that they were part of and reoffend. That's what they are asking for. So we listen to the experts on this, and that's the approach that we'll be taking. Oui, alors nous écoutons les experts, les chefs de police qui nous ont dit que leur recommandation est que les gouvernements ciblent les armes illégaux et les membres des gangs de route. Ça c'est leur besoin, leur demande, et nous allons lui respecter.
Hi, Mr. Scheer, Janice Dixon, The Globe and Mail. On what we learned on NAFTA last night, you said if you became Prime Minister, you would fix it. What can you actually do? Would you have made dairy concessions?
It's quite clear that Donald Trump ran the table on Justin Trudeau. And as we learned a couple days ago, at the very last minute, he was presented with a take it or leave it deal that forced him to accept all the concessions that Donald Trump was demanding. We had urged Justin Trudeau to negotiate from a position of strength, focusing on things like market access. He chose to do otherwise, and now we see the result of that. Specifically, what we will do after the election is we will work on a one-off basis to get a better deal on some of the failures that Justin Trudeau left us with. For example, he agreed to a cap on exports of dairy products to other countries, that after a certain threshold, Canadians have to charge themselves tariffs on exports to countries unrelated to NAFTA. That's unbelievable that he would agree to that. Those are the types of things that we'll be focusing on, and we believe we'll be able to be successful in that because Conservative governments in the past have been. We were able to obtain exclusions from the Buy American provisions in the past. We were able to get longer-term deals on softwood lumber in the past. Those are the types of things that we will do in the future.
You also mentioned last night that now we have quotas on autos. I'm wondering where you got that information. It was suggested it's not accurate.
Well, as part of the deal that was ultimately signed, there are caps on parts, and I can certainly provide you with a reference to that.
Hi, Mr. Scheer, Katie Simpson, CBC News. Given the framework that you laid out last night to reporters on the plane, you said that as long as the candidate who made controversial comments in the past, as long as they own up to their mistakes, apologize for their mistakes, that you can work with them and that you can move forward with them. Given that framework, when you look at your 2005 speech on same-sex marriage, I know you've said you're not going to reopen the issue, you're not going there, but given the way you describe same-sex marriage, comparing it to a dog's tail, do you look at your own comments and do you feel the need to apologize for them?
What I indicated last night is that it's all about whether or not people support fundamental equality rights and whether or not they show respect to every Canadian and every group within Canada. And that is what we will continue to do as a party. Our party supports the equality rights of all Canadians, and we'll continue to do that.
So I note that you did not apologize in there. So are you not living up to your own standard that you set for your candidates?
As I said, what's important is that our candidates support equality rights of all Canadians. That is what we are going to continue to do. The Conservative Party believes in fundamental rights of all Canadians, individual liberties, the fundamental charter rights. It's Justin Trudeau who has eroded those types of rights in his time in office. We are going to stand up for the equality rights of all Canadians. Thanks very much, everyone.